I want to talk about hope. I want to talk about hope connected to even keeping up with the Joneses, right? And a lot of people who sit in this space of hope and they recognize or don't recognize, they stay blinded to the fact that they aren't able. They aren't worthy, they aren't capable, they don't have what it currently takes because they're doing one thing wrong. And I'm going to save that one thing till the very end. So I hope you hang out for the next 30 minutes and go into the acronym and the experience of hope. That was really deposited to me this morning when I was in the book of James, biblically. Happenstance only propels eternity. Happenstance only propels eternity. There's different ways that you can say that statement, but I hope you're writing it down. Hope. Happenstance only propels eternity. So you have people who talk about circumstances, they talk about coincidences. I like to say God winks, but we have to recognize that everything was predestined. And yet, because we have free will, even in the cultivation of our business and what it is that we're doing here on earth, everyone's clawing and looking for purpose and looking for calling and trying to discover even who they are and why they're here. So I have a couple questions. If you look around you, what do you see currently? What do you feel? What do you have? Maybe it's tangibles, maybe it's intangible. What do you believe that you're still lacking? Maybe you're lacking a tangible resource. Maybe you're lacking an intangible resource, something inside of self. And what do you still want? So as you prepare for 2023, there's several questions, these questions that are things that you should be sitting with when we talk about self-development. I am always thinking about spiritual development connected to the self and the who that dwells inside of us as Christians. If that means nothing to you and you're like, what is she talking about? Stay in the self-help. We'll talk about it more. Look around you. What do you see? What do you feel? What do you have? What do you believe that you are still lacking? And what do you still want? The next question that comes from that place, because that's your happenstance, right? That's where you are in this very moment with this very breath. And yet there's a hope connected to tomorrow, connected perhaps to your eternity. And so the question remains, how are you going to get there? We had an incredible speaker who was on my podcast recently, and I was reading his book prior to recognizing that he was the same person I was about to podcast with and interview, as well as he was also an incredible speaker, and I got connected with him here in Breakfast with Champions. So again, make sure you're not just listening, make sure you're networking, recognizing who you're in community with. So I had felt my spirit leap when he spoke. His name is Skyler Lewis. And I guess at the moment I felt encouraged enough to buy his book and didn't even know that who he was or where he came from, but really loved the concept of the 2-day CEO. He came on the podcast talking about this incredible company, Rise Up Kings, and he's helping entrepreneurs do similar things that I am. Again, could I look at this as competition? Or could I look at this as a net worth opportunity to grow and expand what I feel like we have a massive momentum in the marketplace right now as marketplace ministers? And so I'm having this conversation, not knowing that I'm also reading his book. And that very morning it was revealed to me, oh my goodness, this is the same person. Happenstance? Coincidence? God wink? I don't know. But I had hope in that very moment of the next conversation, not even tomorrow, just the next couple hours. God, you're doing something here. What do you see? What do you feel? What do you have? What do you believe you're still lacking? And what do you still want? These are questions that are literally being revealed if your eyes are open, if your ears are open, if your heart is open in this very moment. And yet we're always clawing for the next moment or the next movement or the next resource or the next coach or the next blessing even. But we're in a blessing right now. And that current blessing and awareness of that blessing is what propels your eternity. So we've all learned valuable lessons that have gotten us to where we are today. And the 2-day CEO, this book that I'm in the process of still reading, I haven't completed it yet, is talking about the blessings, one of which was him holed up in a multi-room house with a bunch of other guys in his young 20s. This was decades ago, and they decided that they didn't have the resources, they didn't have the tangible ability to pay for heat. Okay, to pay for heat. This was his happenstance. This was his circumstance. This was his current blessing.